When I sat down to make a video detailing a Reddit leak regarding the unannounced Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster and/or Remake, two things surprised me. First, the response to that video has been amazing for a small channel like mine. I uploaded that video to less than 350 subscribers. I'm now past 650 in just a few short weeks. Thank you to everyone who enjoyed that video and my other content in the meantime, and welcome back to the ongoing discussion. A discussion that I believe is better when more people have a say in it. If you watch this video and your thoughts still haven't been addressed, please leave a comment explaining why down below.
Yeah, thanks. He won't shut up about making more stuff, which means I have to go back to work.
I still think that you practicing social distancing is quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, Fred. I'm sure that most gamers who look ahead tend to have creative ideas as to how games are going to shape up. Which brings me to the second surprise, the huge array of different opinions and perspectives on the matter. See, if you had asked me just a month ago, I would have thought that the community almost unanimously thought along the same lines as Darkseid's avatar here, who responds, "Are you kidding me?" when asked about whether or not they would want a remaster. Well, Darkseid, it turns out that this passionate, long-suffering community, ranging from old-time fans to newcomers, has all sorts of different thoughts, from those not wanting the remaster to exist at all to those eternally optimistic for a return to the Milky Way. Really, the fact that these games can still generate such a passionate, diverse following is nothing short of awesome. So today, we're revisiting what some of you said you wanted from a reworked trilogy. We uneasily realize that many of you are interested in making, and I quote, "Lil Blue babies." We ignore that I was among the first YouTubers to discuss the alleged Reddit leak, followed by others conveniently doing the same thing.
There are more important things in life, but we totally see you.
So unsheathe those Omniblades, finish some calibrations, and get ready to respectfully disagree with your fellow fans as we look at what you want from a renewed Mass Effect trilogy. As we dive into this subject, also remember that all of this is based around a highly debated leak and not at all around an official confirmation. While I believe that it exists, I'm always interested to hear if and why people don't, when you think a release would be likely, etc. The influence of the Mass Effect trilogy is something that creates a gravitational pull around most people who play it. Like C.D. Smith, who got Mass Effect 1 as an afterthought alongside another game, only to later try it and realize they were hooked after the opening hours.
That's how they get you.
But C.D. Smith accurately suggests that AAA games are descending into an area where combat and presentation are emphasized while stories continuously decline in quality. They also share their thoughts on the idea of further adventures in Andromeda, while acknowledging that any return to Andromeda would have to serve as a redemption. Which brings us to Mass Effect 3, the most polarizing game. Many people are still reasonably bothered by the end of the trilogy. This subject engulfed much of the fanbase for a long time after the series finale, so I shouldn't be too surprised about it coming up again frequently. After all, it came with a fundamental lack of respect for player choice and gave birth to the indoctrination theory, which I have never been 100% on board with. In the video titled A Thorough Look at Mass Effect, Noah Caldwell-Gervais says, "What's more likely, that Bioware came up with a secret ending but didn't brag to anyone about it, or that the game was originally released with writing sloppy enough to accommodate this theory?" With all of this and more taken into account, there are hopes out there that the ending could be redone altogether. This is an interesting idea, one that I would support, but rewriting could cause new problems if it deviates too far from the original intent of the writers. If anything, they could expound on what's happening during Shepard's final choice and the events leading up to it. Which leads us to an interesting idea for the future of Mass Effect, and it's something that I hadn't put much thought into: committing to a canon ending to make way for Mass Effect 4 in the Milky Way. A subject I now find so interesting, I plan to make a separate video on it. As the credits rolled on ME3, I had a moment of, that's it? But I didn't experience outrage, because I genuinely enjoyed that journey. That said, I understand why people would want parts of it completely rewritten, whether it's likely or not. In my mind, it's not up for debate that Bioware should have given us something with more depth and respect for player choice. Safe to say, when it was released, this entry was by far the most polarizing and controversial of the three. There may be people who say that Mass Effect 2's gameplay was overly simplistic. Maybe you think that planetary exploration was better than planet scanning. Regardless, there is only one game in the franchise more divisive than ME3, and that is, of course, Andromeda. I also agree that more Mass Effect will be of the utmost importance for BioWare's future, but a return to Andromeda in any capacity could be problematic.
Can you imagine the inevitable dumpster fire if Mass Effect Andromeda 2 were announced instead of a new game or a reimagined trilogy?
That's basically my point. There was undoubtedly more optimism and positive reflection around Andromeda than I had expected here, which I completely respect. That game is already made, so enjoy what you enjoy. But if a direct sequel were announced? Oh boy. The debate around how they're handling the future of the franchise would kick in immediately and last long after a sequel were released. The Andromeda premise did and maybe does have potential, but that's a sizable hole that Bioware would need to dig out of, and EA isn't likely to return to an avenue they didn't view as a success. Some people expressed excitement over a remake using Andromeda's combat system, and while this could be interesting, you would have to consider everything that would go into balancing such a different style of gameplay. Regardless of whether you loved Andromeda or hated it, you have to respect that there are reasons some fans only want a remaster instead of a remake, which would require Bioware to do some serious tinkering. Many people don't trust them to do a good job. Of course, some people are feeling hopeful, and in a lot of ways, I'm right there with you. I know blind optimism can lead to frustration and disappointment, especially given the justifiably controversial places that Bioware has been over the past few years. But some raw excitement can lead to genuine energy, an energy with the potential to be rewarded if the community's hopes are in any way realized. There seem to be a lot of people interested in expanded romance options. Again, I can't get all of these blue baby comments out of my head. There was definitely more demand for Tali as a partner than anyone else. Garrus and Tali are the only squad mates who are with us for all 3 games, so I can see why this would be appealing to some fans even though I don't care for the romantic subplots.
You heartless monster.
There are also people who want to see a return of the cooperative multiplayer mode,
and some who want it to stay far, far away.
I had several comments optimistically pointing out reasons why this leak might be believable, and some that were reasonably pointing out why it's good to be cautious. I can wholeheartedly understand why people are not willing to believe this long-awaited wish is suddenly granted without proper official confirmation. We've been hearing these rumors, essentially, for years. Just because a few people start talking about it isn't objectively enough for everyone to start anticipating it, and I respect that. There were several people citing Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda as core reasons as to why they'd rather have a simple remaster instead of anything that would require, well,
development or creative effort.
Right. Of course, Bioware works for EA, and that automatically brings an entire new realm of doubts and skepticism. Electronic Arts has proven that they are not a consumer-friendly company, and anything their logo appears on is going to be met with scrutiny. I know Bioware is somewhat of a joke right now, but ultimately the fact that they haven't been entirely shut down by EA is somewhat surprising on its own. I think that some doubts about the legitimacy of the remaster can be mitigated by the fact that many outlets have reported on it and EA is yet to deny any of it. Rumors build hype all on their own. Hype usually equals sales. While some parts of the leak cannot be proven, at least some of what the Reddit user claimed has lined up, though not enough to definitively say it's all true. Then there are people out there who don't want any remaster or remake, plain and simple. Some of you suggest that the Mass Effect trilogy doesn't need a remaster. Maybe they believe the games hold up just fine, or that mods can keep the games feeling modern on PC. But it's also worth noting that not all gamers have access to a PC. For console-only players, a renewed trilogy would be their only means of enjoying the games from a fresh angle. And then there are those of you who want the focus to be on a brand new game rather than having BioWare's time and resources spent on looking back. But there's another aspect too, and the term here is relevancy. Mass Effect games, especially the first one, are somewhat dated. My previous upload on this subject was overwhelmingly watched by viewers between the ages of 25 and 34. So to reiterate, a reworked trilogy, done properly, could revitalize this series. It could pave the way for a brand new game by rebuilding some good faith. This community has to be aware that, given the reception to ME3 and Andromeda, there is a large portion of gamers who view this series as somewhat of a joke. And Mass Effect deserves better than that. The influence it once had is undeniable. These games changed the perception of storytelling in video games for millions of people, its systems inspiring countless imitators. The charm and depth of its supporting cast outshines that of any characters found in most other franchises. The ambitions of its narrative and the ways that it deviated through player choice have never been matched by any other series. Whether you believe that the trilogy is worthwhile because of the journey, or is completely ruined by the ultimatum of us all arriving at the same destination, we as fans all live alongside the same truth. Mass Effect can be more than it has been for the past few years. Even if that seems unlikely, you're still watching this, so chances are these games grabbed you and didn't let go. The studio that started it might be fundamentally different now, but this series continues to exist with all of its faults because of its capacity to tell meaningful stories. This series will continue to exist because of us. Whether its conclusion endlessly disappoints you, or came too soon because you wanted more, most of us wouldn't trade what this amazing trilogy brought us for anything. If you guys enjoy our videos, check out the AAA Game Length Problem, where we discuss the ongoing trend of long development cycles and overblown single-player games. I'm proud of that video and I think many of you would enjoy it as well. Thank you all so much for making it to the end. If you have any thoughts on the Mass Effect remake I didn't share here, please leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to respond. If you really enjoy these videos, you can ring the bell to make sure you always know when more arrive. In the meantime, stay on the lookout for gaming news you care about, and I will see you next time.